Summit. GBT stands for Get Better Today. After you have your vision, after you have your goals written down and your action plans of what you have to do to achieve those goals, I want you to focus on one thing, because there's one thing that matters. Constant and continual growth. Get better today. I'm not telling you to not think about your goals, not think about your long-term aspirations and where you want to be a year from now, 5 years from now. All that stuff is important. And we kind of already hit on that when we go through the goal setting exercise. But after you set your goals, 8 to 10 goals, and you identify your game changer, I want you to reverse engineer into what really matters most. Because hear me out on this. Achieving the goal is not the most important thing. The man or woman that you become in the pursuit of trying to achieve your most important goal, that is the most important thing. I had a great career in college. GBT benefited my life in so many ways as a football player. I was all Big Ten, broke records, and I finally achieved a lifelong dream. I got the opportunity to play in the National Football League for the hometown team, the Chicago Bears. This is the biggest moment of my life. Hometown kid playing for the hometown team, beat a drug addiction that nearly killed him. And it's very hard for me to even describe this because I can't describe and begin to tell you guys what it felt like to put that Chicago Bears jersey on. To be in that locker room with Brian Urlacher and Lovie Smith and Lance Briggs, people that I grew up watching and admiring. My very first game in the NFL is my very last game in the NFL. My very first game playing the San Diego Chargers, Lance Briggs goes out with a concussion. It's my first time to go in the NFL, in a game, in an actual live game. I get my opportunity as a rookie to prove everybody that I belonged in the NFL. And I get injured. I will never forget the very next day when it was time for me to wake up at 7 a.m. and go to Northwestern Medical to get my ankle checked out. After having a great game in my first NFL appearance. I had 6 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. So I was feeling very good about my performance, but I was also very concerned and worried about what was in store for my future because the NFL is a business. It's a big money business, and at the end of the day, it's kind of like being a salesperson. If you're not adding value to that organization, to that team, you're gone. You're gone. You have to perform. You have to execute. There is no just going through the motions like a high school football player or a college football player. It is a business. I will never forget when the doctor walks in and says, "Matt, you will not be playing football for a very long time." I completely tore a bone off of my ankle and I was out for 9.5 months. 9.5 months in the NFL is an eternity, guys. Right then and there. Very first game in the NFL, my very last game in the NFL, my career was over with. I was completely shattered, very depressed. I was so depressed that I even thought about suicide and ending my life because I couldn't go through another challenge, another adversity. You know, I overcome the addiction, I overcome all the challenges and adversities in my life, and then I finally get to this moment. And Doc, you tell me that I'm done playing the game that I love? Like I'm doing this for my family, for everyone that I love and care about, and you're telling me that I'm done? And since I did not commit suicide and end my life that day, it was that adversity, that challenge of getting hurt in my very first NFL game that completely changed the course of my life. Because I had the mindset and attitude that, you know, I finally get to this moment in my life and achieve a dream that I was so passionate about that I wanted to achieve for so many years of being a professional athlete. And overcome the addiction. I finally get to this moment and then it's stripped from me. You know, looking at everything that I've been through throughout the course of my life. I changed my perspective, and that's what the champions do. That's what the best salespeople do. They have the right perspective. Because failure and the adversities and challenges of life, they are not meant to derail you. They're not meant to hurt you. The only reason why we are experiencing challenges and adversities in our lives of losing loved ones and going through a global pandemic, I truly have this perspective that it is to teach me about how to become a stronger, a more emotional, a more equipped human being to rise up to the challenges in the game of life. And when you have that perspective, guys, your life changes. Your life changes. You never ever view challenges and adversities in the same way again. Now, obviously, I don't want to fail. I don't want to experience a hardship, but I love it because I love what it does to me. I love the opportunity that it provides. And that is what I think is in front of all of you. Even though that all of you had a great 2020, I still think that 2021 and beyond, that this is the beginning of a bigger future. The future will be bigger than the past. I fully believe that. Use those challenges of life to fuel your fire. And as I briefly mentioned, before I started my management consulting firm, because when I got hurt in the NFL, I didn't sign the $15 million contract. I was an undrafted free agent. So I had to make a living. And before I started my management consulting firm and started speaking around the world, before I started that, I was a top earning salesperson for a pharmaceutical company. And a lot of it, guys, I still get the question to this day from a lot of my friends and colleagues that I met at that local pharmaceutical company. Matt, how did you do it? You were outperforming and outselling people that were in the organization, in this industry for 25 years. It's because everything that I learned in the game of football applies to sales. And I want to share 4 things with you right now that I think can make a tremendous difference for you in 2021 and beyond. Number 1, prepare like a champion. Prepare like a champion. We've talked a lot about celebrating success, educating ourselves, becoming a lifelong learner, motivating ourselves, one another, our team members, colleagues. But guys, when you look at the DNA of a champion, when you look at the DNA of the best salespeople, the best leaders, the best educators, the best athletes, there's one thing they all have in common. They prepare like their life depends on it. Why? Because it does. Every interaction with a customer, with a prospect, every interaction with a colleague, every interaction, no matter who you're talking to, preparing like a champion has propelled my business to new heights. Before every speech, before every consulting client, before every meeting, I not only do my research, but I immerse myself into the challenges. I immerse myself into the, how can I show up and provide the most value?